And by came an angel who had a bright key, and he opened the coffins and set them all free. Then, down a green plain leaping, laughing, they run, and wash in a river and shine in the sun.
Once you understand the poetry, it's kind of easier to talk about it and then eventually recite it.
A lot of teachers, like their students, feel a little intimidated by poetry. And what I would want to tell them is relax.
Recite that line.
And then I would say, look through the Poetry Out Loud anthology yourself. Find half a dozen poems you love. Figure out why you love them. And share that excitement and that passion with your students.
And you notice that there's also anaphora, right?
We focus on language and the music of language, the musicality of words, in a way that we don't normally do. Poetry, it's beautiful. Right? I think that poetry is an art, and I think that the appreciation of things that are beautiful is important.
To be able to write poetry, one has to be able to read it. And just as we look forward to a whole new generation of writers of poetry, we also look forward to a generation that's able to read it and that's able to appreciate it. And I think that's one of the things that Poetry Out Loud does.
It is one of those things that if you just try it, you will be amazed at what will come from it.
This program has been totally influential in my life. As Alicia mentioned, I'm getting ready to graduate from college from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. Thank you. And I can honestly say that this program was the springboard.
Hog butcher for the world, tool maker, stacker of wheat, player with railroads and the nation's freight handler, stormy, husky, brawling, city of the big shoulders.
Good. Don't throw poetry away. Gotta hear that last word as loudly as all the other words.
It's recitation.
Okay.
So you can't beat it and hip hop it and do any of that stuff to it. You have to recite the poem, which means that you have to actually get to know what the period is, what the sound should be, and then discipline yourself to that. You know, just like a period play, you have to discipline yourself to that period.
And though translated, could not be refined.
I think when we get activated with language, it doesn't matter what we want to do, whether we want to do science, we want to be math, we want to become patrolmen or movie producers, that language will help us. And we get to see, as Wordsworth said, beyond the life of things through language. And that's why I think something like Poetry Out Loud, having kids read poetry and giving them permission to do this, that this is important, this will help you, this will help your GPA, this will help your SAT scores. I think once we realize that, that'll be important.
When you start really diving deep into a poem, you start to realize like the punctuation marks mean something that you didn't realize. You realize there's connections between the first word of the poem and then the last word of the poem. So you just start seeing all these connections between not just the words, but the punctuation marks, the spaces even, which is really cool, the line structure. So yeah, just poets really, really think very deeply about every single thing they put into a poem.
Reason, a kind of innate deity which only can adapt to every soul, a yoke so fit and light that the control all liberty excels. So sweet a sway, the same 'tis to be happy and obey.
To the extent that anything may be learned, poetry may be learned. To the extent that music may be learned, to the extent that chemistry may be learned, to the extent that mathematics may be learned, poetry may be learned.